Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar, our final report out from this wonderful project featuring community engaged research. It has just been our pleasure to facilitate this project on behalf of the Barbara Bush Foundation and Dollar General, and the All-In initiative in general. We had a vision for this work about 2 Marches ago, really understanding how research that involved a community engaged research would be really beneficial to the field. And so we're grateful that we've been able to lead this on behalf of the All In. So in this presentation, you're going to hear about why community engaged research, and then you're going to get to meet the researchers and the teams and hear some interesting stories about what they learned through their research along the way. So the first thing that I just want to share is that we worked together with the research teams that you're going to hear from today and really decided that a community engaged research would be an appropriate response to highlighting innovations and improvements in adult ed from the recent past in a manner that aligns with the key goals of the National Action Plan related to access, quality, and or uptake of literacy instruction. All of these things that are part of the Barbara Bush National Action Plan on literacy. And why community engaged research? Because it is collaborative and participatory. So the voices of the educators and the community members and the learners being involved in the research process really helps to underscore the relevance of the innovations that we're observing through the studies that you're going to hear about. And with the understanding that community engaged research is done to address an educational issue that's really highly relevant in these diverse contexts, in these diverse settings, with the goal of promoting positive change. So we really saw the methodology and the goals of the National Action Plan being a natural overlap. And so we're going to hear more about what these teams have found. So Justine is going to give you a little bit of an overview of who applied and the teams that were selected for this study, for this funded studies.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. So I'm Justine Shade. I'm a project coordinator with World Education. I work with Jen very closely on this project. And in early summer last year, in 2023, we issued a call for proposals. And in September, we had received just over 20 responses from a really diverse group of applicants. Our review process was supported by several adult education, literacy, and edtech scholars, and each proposal that was submitted was evaluated by 3 readers, all using the same rubric, and they were all looking for proposed research that really described relevant and novel research questions and a research process that was structured to yield evidence to answer them, and really included active involvement from participant partners in a really meaningful way so that it could inform the research process. And you can see here that we had a really diverse range of applicants, whether it was a city, nonprofit organizations, and universities. And of the 5 selected research projects that were selected from those proposals, we chose 5 based on their merits and the selected diversity in their scope and focus. So they all sort of explore various settings from program, city, and national levels. And they also vary in their depth of analysis from learner to instructional to systemic levels. Each of these 5 research teams is actually here today. They have about 7 minutes to talk about their project and introduce you to their studies. While you listen, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function. Jen will be keeping an eye on that as each team presents. You can jot down your questions or comments as they are sharing, and we'll have a few minutes with each team for Q&A after they present. With that, I'd like to go ahead and get started and welcome Brooke Machado from the City of Boston Workforce Development and Adult Literacy Initiative.
Hello, and thank you. I just want to say good afternoon to everybody here. It has been a pleasure to work with you, with World Ed on All In's Community Engaged Research Initiative. So big thanks to World Ed and All In for their support of the project that we will be sharing. So again, my name is Brooke Machado. My colleague Aaron and I will be presenting today. Unfortunately, our colleague Sarah was not able to make it, but we work in the City of Boston Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, which is an innovative public agency dedicated to ensuring the full participation of all Boston residents in the city's economic vitality and future. So about our agency, by connecting low-income residents with occupational training and employment opportunities, as well as promoting lifelong learning and educational pathways, our agency plays a crucial role in fostering community prosperity in Boston's residents. Can you take me to the next slide?
Absolutely.
So to achieve this mission, our office knows that it is imperative to ensure that Boston's adult learners are equipped for workforce development training and post-secondary education. Adult learners often face challenges entering and succeeding in these programs. So to address this issue, our project aims to explore program models and strategies that facilitate adult learners' transitions from ABE programming to post-secondary pathways. We wanted to better understand the obstacles they encounter and identify support mechanisms to enhance the integration of these individuals into occupational training and post-secondary ed. So who did we work with? Well, primarily our first partner in this work was a coalition that our agency oversees called the Adult Literacy Initiative, also known as ALI. So ALI is a consortium of 29 adult literacy providers located in the city of Boston. You can see the types of programming that these organizations provide. So anything from ESOL up to high school equivalency preparation. ALI has been in existence since 1983 and convenes regularly to discuss not only adult education, but workforce topics. And programs in ALI serve over 3,600 served 3,600 students in FY24. So our office definitely identifies as our ALI partners as ones who we wanted to engage with in this community engaged research project, as they serve as a stepping stone towards greater economic mobility for Boston residents. They're not named here, but I also want to acknowledge other community partners that we worked with. So also supporting the work of this project were workforce development and occupational training providers, representatives from two-year colleges, state-level DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education staff, as well as 18 learners. What work did we do in this project? We held 3 focus groups that consisted of 18 participants in each group from these various partner agencies. We conducted a survey that had 76 responses, and we had an in-person strategy summit that was attended by 60 individuals from ALI and our other community partners. So I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Aaron, who will share about what are we learning through this work.
Thank you, Brooke. And it seems like I'm not able to share video, but hopefully you guys are able to hear me. So what we're looking at here are the findings from phase 2 of our research. We reached out to 76 practitioners from the ABE and workforce development systems and asked whether they considered certain barriers to be serious or very serious, or varying shades of not serious. So we combined that serious and very serious into one main serious category. And what we have here are our top 10. So as you can see, most of these barriers were considered serious by ABE and workforce development practitioners. But one thing that we did want to call out is there's a bit of disparity between AB and workforce development practitioners in how some of these barriers are perceived. For example, difficulty with standardized tests was considered a top 5 barrier by AB practitioners, but it's not in this combined top 10 list because it was near the bottom for workforce development practitioners. And ABE practitioners felt similarly about high tuition and ineligibility for financial aid, uh, while those were considered serious by a smaller proportion of workforce development practitioners. And this survey set the stage for, and if we can go on to the next page, slide here, set the stage for our strategy summit, which brought together practitioners from across the ABE and workforce development ecosystems. We split them into 9 working groups to recommend strategies to address some of these barriers. Some of the major takeaways, 5 out of our 9 working groups recommended strategies to align academic or language skills with training requirements. So this includes contextualized education and occupation-specific targeted education in ABE and ESOL. And this is backed up by some of the information or some of the quotes that we got during focus groups. One AB practitioner discussed how AB practitioners, AB learners sometimes had to take remedial courses in college, which don't count towards the credential that they're aiming to achieve, but does require more tuition and increases barriers to persistence. And we also had a workforce development practitioner who described that sometimes there's a disconnect between how somebody's able to exist in the world and their speaking ability, and then how they perform on tests that are gateways to these post-secondary and skills training programs. And some of that has to do with the timed tests and reading comprehension skills, again, especially in that timed environment. The other major takeaway, 4 out of our 9 working groups recommended increased or unrestricted, more flexible funding. This was actually a solution that was cited to address different barriers. One, for example, was maybe flexible funding to provide wraparound services, while another was flexible funding to deliver new innovative program models. So yeah, these are our main takeaways from our strategy summit. You can see some of our participants working there on the right. Now I'll hand it back to Brooke to go over the implications of our research.
Thank you, Aaron. So we're only able to share sort of some very high-level findings with you today, but we're really excited that through this project, we will have the opportunity to author a blog post that provides more detail and background about this work. But in terms of the implications of sort of what we've done on this project, this research has not only yielded valuable insights into the challenges confronted by adult learners when attempting to transition to workforce training or post-secondary education, but it also really lays the groundwork for future studies and advancement within our agency's purview and for the broader field here in Massachusetts. So looking ahead, we envision that this work will serve as a catalyst for deeper investigations into specific barriers and looking at sort of supporting effective interventions. So our findings underscore, if you know what we want to leave folks here with today, our findings underscore the imperative to broaden access to essential support services for adult learners who have been historically overlooked, who have fallen through the gaps that exist between where ABE programs end and where workforce development training begins. So they also sort of point out the necessity of enhancing partnerships between ABE programming and occupational training programs, along with post-secondary education providers, and looking at ways to sort of customize maybe a different partnership model that better facilitates this transition. I want to bring folks' attention to sort of the last column here where it says practice. So at a very high level, we've identified 5 goals for our agency to start working on now. And so some of that I kind of alluded to, but the first is looking at expanding ABE partnerships and funding for programs that see the need to do more and want to do more. We're also looking at ways we can support the alignment of ABE with training providers and the needs of employers. We uncovered that we need to do more data tracking of this population. There are lots of folks tracking data, but they might not be tracking the same things, and it's really hard to get access to it. So we want to do our part to enhance our data tracking. We also want to acknowledge sort of the need for quality jobs in adult education. So one of our goals will be looking at how to enhance staff retention and job quality for adult basic education teachers, as well as supporting digital literacy skill integration, because what we heard from both sides is that we know that learners need to be have access to more digital literacy skill training in order to be successful in their next steps. So I think with that, we will stop here. We're happy to take questions here or offline about this project. And we thank you all for being here and for this opportunity to share our work.
Thank you so much, Erin and Brooke. I think because I want to make sure that all of the research teams get a chance to present within the first 60 minutes of this, we're going to encourage you to go to the Q&A. There are 3 questions in the Q&A for you. So if you could please go there and answer those questions. And then after the 60 minutes, after all the teams have gone, then we can stay on the call for further discussion on any of the projects that come up. Okay, so let's so just please do go to the Q&A, Brooke and Erin, okay, and respond to those questions there. Okay, let's move on to the next team, Justine. Okay, so I would like to invite Lauren and Elisa to talk about, we're going to zoom out to more of a national level here, and they're going to talk about one part of a very interesting study that's been going on for a little while.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks again, just to repeat, Brooke, thanks to everyone for being here, but especially thanks to All In and World Ed for making this grant-making activity possible and for supporting these 6 really interesting projects. So our project was not so much to try out or to study an innovation, but rather to collect information about what is our current situation as a way to better drive innovation. So I think a lot of times there's a bit of a tendency to just start new ideas, kind of based on instinct about what would be good, without really first digging deep on what is the current context. So our project aimed to understand more about what's going on at the program level around collection and use of assessment data. We know programs have to, a Title II, we owe a Title II programs have to collect assessment data for pre and post testing. We know that's happening, it's getting reported, but the study was really interested in how is assessment data being used to inform instruction? Another very, very important function of assessment that we believed, hypothesized, maybe is being underutilized because programs' resources are pretty much getting taken up around assessment with the accountability requirements. So we wanted to understand what's going out there, what the challenges are, what the needed supports are. We were interested in how digital tools could be used to do this, although that was just sort of one piece of what we really looked at. So next slide. Okay, so our project had sort of 2 big pieces to it. First, our community partners were 10 practitioners from 6 programs in 6 states. And they were from a range of programs, urban, rural, small, large. And we asked them to participate in 2 ways. First, they were research participants in that they participated in a focus group on their own practices, strengths, barriers, challenges around assessment. And from the focus group, from what I gained from talking to them, I then drafted a a survey that would be distributed nationally about program practices. And from there, they switched from research participants to research assistants in that they then gave feedback on the survey before it went out, and I revised based on their feedback. And then after we conducted the national survey, they looked at the data with me and gave me feedback on the data. So our community partners really participated in two ways, both as research participants and as research assistants. And then also the national survey was very much aimed at getting a perspective from practitioners, really broad-based. Of course, it's like at a more, surveys we say are an inch thick and a mile wide. And when you do a focus group, it's kind of the opposite. So we got both. Our focus was in particular on reading, literacy, but reading especially, assessment related to reading for students who are reading below the fourth grade, at or below the fourth grade level equivalent. For both English language learners and native speakers, but those who are ABE level 1 and 2 in NRS reporting. So we can go on from there. So what did we learn? This, what I'm going to present today, like Brooke, we can only, share some of what we got. And this is largely from the survey, but is underlyingly informed by the focus group participants. So first of all, in terms of assessment processes, we learned that assessment is clearly being used for accountability purposes, and this would be true for WIOA Title II programs, of course, but also non-WIOA Title II programs. I was interested to see how many programs who are not required by accountability measures of WIOA are still doing very much like Title II programs are. So pre and post testing is very common. And about 75% of instructors said they do find assessment informative. However, when it comes to formative assessment, which is not pre or post testing, it's maybe a little bit different. It sort of comes in two ways. First of all, they're largely depending on tests and quizzes and other kinds of information that comes from instructional materials that they're using. That's the vast majority, but they're also using some homegrown approaches of observation, asking students, things they develop themselves. However, we noticed that there's a really severe lack of training and professional development related to reading instruction, much less assessment, and that this may really be limiting practitioners' capacity to fully use assessment information to inform practice. And this was really noticeable. So we'll go from there to the barriers. So the practitioners identified a number of barriers that they felt were getting in the way of really being able to use standardized assessment in ways that could inform instruction. So first of all, they reported that learners find standardized assessment to be intimidating. They're very anxious and nervous, and that this could really impede learners' ability to perform as well as possible on pre and post tests. They also reported that pre and post tests are too long, and importantly, that they find the results unreliable. So I think it's interesting. On the one hand, people are saying 75% are saying that they find assessment useful, but they're also, on the other hand, very skeptical about what assessment can do for them. Many reported that they don't find the information actionable and that it doesn't provide a full learner picture. It's not especially rich about the specific reading needs that students have, but more importantly, about students' goals, about students' barriers and challenges and strengths that they bring. It's just not coming across in the testing that they have to do. And they really don't have the capacity to do additional testing. And lastly, that it's difficult to interpret. So most programs, additionally, they have a very standardized pre and post test process, but they do not have a standardized formative assessment process. So it's a little bit much more, whatever anyone does, they do, and how they use it and what they do is much, much more ad hoc. So lastly, sorry, there should be bullets on these. Time, know-how, and resources were big barriers. There really isn't time to do more than they're doing. A lot of people said that they just don't know how to do more with the assessment results than what they're doing. And the resources, money, professional development, all those kinds of things that would enable them to more effectively use assessment beyond reporting procedures. I just think needs to be a really clear distinction made. Programs are functioning quite well around pre and post testing for accountability purposes. Assessment for instruction is much, much blurrier. Okay, implications for research policy and practice. For research, I think it's very clear that because of the dearth of training, both in higher ed and also in professional development, because of the dearth of training on reading instruction and intervention, we should be developing and then testing what difference this could make in terms of program practices, processes, and ultimately learner outcomes. And then we could also, importantly, develop effective assessment that speaks to what people are saying their barriers and concerns or needs are, and then testing to see how they help support instruction. On the policy end, an important thing that came about is that new assessments, importantly, shouldn't require any additional time or expense because programs don't have that. And that any new assessments developed should have both a paper and a digital option available, because a lot of students are even made more anxious by having to do assessment digitally, and also the hardware and software involved can be an impediment. And importantly, with students at this level, practitioners talked about how oftentimes using standardized assessments, it doesn't capture progress in the time period during which pre and post testing happens. The improvement is too sort of fine-grained. And so from a policy level, there's a sense that it would be very important to be able to show incremental improvement, that it should be measurable, and that it should count towards accountability purposes. And lastly, in practice, better links are needed between assessment and instruction. More systematic formative assessment procedures and processes are needed that are really practical and actionable for programs, and instructors need more training. So bottom line, assessment tools, practices, and procedures could shape instruction in more informative ways, but assessment tools need rethinking, and we need more training and support.
Thank you so much, Elisa. I want to again direct people to the Q&A. The Q&A is really helpful for answering these questions and putting them all in one place, so the presenters can just go there and respond. If you want to chat with each other in the chat, do feel free to do so. That is enabled. Okay, so and there is a question there from Daphne and then also from Linda. Elisa. Great. So we are now going to move back down to a smaller scale lens. We're going to talk with Ashley Simpson-Baird, who's done some work in the DC area at the program level. Ashley, welcome.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to everyone at All In, World Ed, and the Barbara Bush Foundation for supporting this work. And good afternoon to everyone tuning in from wherever you may be. It's nice to see so many familiar names on the participant list. My name is Ashley Simpson-Baird. I am the founder and principal of Merit Research Policy and Evaluation. This is my one-woman shop located here in Washington, D.C. I work with schools, school districts, and educational support organizations in customized, equity-focused research policy and evaluation solutions. And my study is called Post-Pandemic Instructional Modalities in Adult Education. This study was conducted in partnership with Brea Public Charter School, which is a two-generation school educating immigrant parents and children together right here in Washington, D.C. And at Brea, adult learners can choose between in-person, hybrid, or virtual classes. Those are the three instructional modalities that we're examining in this study. And through those modalities, they are taking classes to either improve their English, work on their high school diploma through the National External Diploma Program, or gain workforce credentials. Prior to the pandemic, Berea only offered in-person classes for their adult learners. And then the world stopped in spring of 2020, and they made the switch to a completely virtual posture. And then in the fall of 21, switched to hybrid and virtual. And then this year, for the first time in the fall of 23, they offered in-person classes again. So this provided a really unique opportunity to study these three modalities, in-person, hybrid, and virtual, as they relate to student characteristics, student outcomes, access to wraparound supports, and staff and student experiences. Next slide, please. So before I continue with the study, I just want to tell you a little bit more about some of the learners and educators that I worked with in this study. You'll see here on the right side is a short video. I'm actually going to skip over that today due to our limited time, but I will put the link in the chat when I'm finished so that you can watch it on your own. It's a great story of a mom named Sadeh and her son Obed. Sadeh grew up and went to school in Ethiopia and came to Berea to study English. And since recording this video, has actually obtained her workforce credential as a child development associate and teaches in Brea's early childhood program. At Berea, the majority of the students are women or identify as women. They come from majority low-income households. They are heavily Hispanic, Black, and Asian. And at the time of their entry into Berea, most of them have below an 8th grade education, and almost always that it was in their home country. To qualify to participate in Berea, you have to be a parent. So all students in the program have children between the ages of 0 and 18. On the staff side, Berea staff come from over 56 countries and speak more than 30 languages, many of those the languages that their students speak as well. And Berea boasts that every department in the school actually has a Berea alumni who works in that department. So it's a great way to sort of bridge that cultural understanding. Next slide, please. All right, and so here is a table that briefly summarizes some of the findings that we're seeing in the study. And like Brooke mentioned, I want to point you to some blog posts that are coming out where you can receive more detail on some of the research that I conducted. So you'll see here at the top of this table are the three modalities we examined: in-person, hybrid, and virtual. And down the left-hand side are some of the outcomes of interest that we are examining. I'm just going to talk through each one briefly. First, when it comes to enrollment, the majority of learners this school year chose to enroll in hybrid classes. About 60% of them chose hybrid. This isn't all that surprising, given that the year before, the majority of them were also in hybrid classes. So they were essentially choosing something that they already knew. On the childcare side, in-person learners were the most likely to have a child enrolled in Berea. About 54% of them had children in the early childhood classes. That makes a lot of sense. You're bringing your child to school, dropping them off, makes sense to stay for your in-person class as well. When it came to attendance, virtual learners had the best attendance at about 82%. This is also not surprising when you're learning from a preferred location, be it your home or your workplace or somewhere else. You don't have to face the barriers of transportation or weather or anything else that might get in the way of you getting to school. When it came to academic growth, there was actually some bifurcation here. And what we saw was the achievement actually depended on the student's level. So those learners who enrolled in basic and advanced or workforce classes actually saw the most growth through in-person classes, whereas intermediate level students saw the most growth in hybrid classes. I thought this was a really interesting finding. So as part of the study, I conducted a data party where I dug into some of the findings with educators at Berea to get some of their inferences and interpretations. Some of them shared that they felt like the teaching team on the hybrid side was stronger this year. And so perhaps that was some of the reason that the intermediate students were seeing more growth there compared with the intermediate team on the in-person and virtual side. This study was purely observational, so we didn't get into some of those why questions, but that's a great avenue for future research and something I'd look forward to exploring in the future. When it comes to wraparound supports, at all 4 of Berea's locations, they have student services coordinators who are there to work one-on-one with families to help them reduce any barriers that they might be facing into accessing their education. Through this study, we saw that, sorry, got off my notes a little bit. We saw the in-person students most frequently utilize those wraparound support services. And they did this about 77%. I measured this through the number of cases that they had with their student services coordinators, and in-person students had about 77% more cases than hybrid learners and about 55% more cases than their virtual learners. Berea is very intentional with its goal setting with students. So at the start of every school year, they work with students to set goals. And through this study, we were able to see that virtual students had the highest rate of goal completion. About at the time of the conclusion of the study, they had completed about 86% of their goals, compared with about 70.6% for in-person students and 56% for hybrid students. All three of the modalities had really high rates of student satisfaction as measured through the student survey that we conducted as part of this study, but in-person students had the highest rate of satisfaction, with about 96% of those learners stating that they were satisfied or very satisfied with their classes. And overall, 71% of learners indicated that they plan to re-enroll for the 24-25 school year. However, in-person learners had the highest proportion of students who indicated that they would re-enroll at about 80%. Next slide, please. 29 adult educators completed surveys on their experiences this school year. And like their students, adult educators expressed high levels of satisfaction with their chosen modality. In fact, 4 out of 5 adult educators wanted to continue with their instructional modality. And those the remaining educators were just unsure what they wanted for next year, but did not explicitly say that they didn't want to continue in that modality. Excuse me. Adult educators appreciated the ability to express their preferred teaching modality, which was directly related to their beliefs and what students needed to be successful academically. Teachers across modalities also expressed challenges with technology. Bree is a one-to-one school where all students get Chromebooks at the time of enrollment. And through all those modalities, teachers express challenges with getting students to appropriately access and use those technologies. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up here, Brea's decision to once again offer in-person adult education classes after the pandemic was actually initially driven by its early childhood educators. They knew that Brea's youngest learners, those infants and toddlers in the program, would benefit from more days of in-person instruction and would be more likely to attend if their parents were also there in person. This study found that not only did in-person instruction offer measurable academic benefits, but it also increased access to wraparound supports, was related to higher satisfaction, and increased the likelihood of re-enrollment. However, other modalities also met adult learners' myriad needs, including scheduling flexibility and learning preferences. At Brea, adult learners can be successful in any modality, and offering both students and educators a choice allows them to teach and learn the modality that meets their needs. Offering all 3 modalities also has benefits for staffing. During a challenging time to recruit and retain educators, offering choice and flexibility for teachers may give Brea a competitive advantage when hiring. Future research that examined whether these patterns hold in other adult learning contexts and over time. And then just to wrap up, Brea does plan to continue to offer adult education through in-person, hybrid, and virtual classes in the foreseeable future. Thank you so much for your time today, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Ashley, for sharing such rich research in a really short time. There is at least one question. There are a couple questions for you actually in the Q&A. So again, everyone, we have two more presentations. After that, we will have time for actual live discussion. And so I encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A and chat with each other in the chat up to the end of the hour. So with that, let's move on to Melissa, who is going to be sharing her research on adult literacy programs for refugees.
Hello, so my name is Melissa Haber-Ozer, and I'm an assistant professor of qualitative inquiry in the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Missouri, Columbia campus. And my project is ambitiously titled Midwest Refugee Coalition Participatory Adult Literacy Program Development. And so this project was focused on the city level, kind of the program level, but I'll explain that in a minute. But I'm really hoping to build a coalition around these integrated needs of refugee adult learners throughout the Midwest. So the aim of the project was to develop a customizable model for innovative, high-quality language and multiliteracies instruction tailored to the needs of refugee adults by developing culturally sensitive, community-embedded, asset-based, trauma-informed English language and literacy classes using free and low-cost materials. So that's a lot. We did our best. Let's go to the next slide. So in this project, I partnered with City of Refuge, which is a local nonprofit organization here in Central Missouri, which provides post-resettlement support for refugees. So after Catholic Charities sets them up with their homes, gets kids enrolled in school and so on, City of Refuge provides various programs to help them establish their life in a new community. And so the demographics of the learners have shifted a little bit over the year that we've been working with this group. But the initial focus was on less slow learners. So if you're not familiar with that term, it stands for literacy, education, and second language learning for adults. So these are adults who have limited or no literacy skills in their home language. They have a variety of other skills, are often multilingual, but they are learning a new language in a migration setting while also learning literacy for the first time or expanding on basic literacy skills. So the learners that we were working with are from a variety of countries in Africa and Asia. The biggest groups are from Afghanistan. That's a newer group coming to Central Missouri, and Myanmar. There's an established community here, which also draws people from other parts of the US to come and move here. And then we also have a smaller number from Sudan, Eritrea, and Democratic Republic of Congo. So a variety of cultures and languages. And these learners have, between the ones that we had in our classes, between 0 and 6 years of formal education. And they had heterogeneous first language literacy levels, from no print literacy all the way to about a 6th grade education in a different writing system. So that also requires support to learn English literacy. And they had been in the US for between 1 month and 9 years. So quite a range of experience as well. So in order to meet the needs of these learners, I recruited a team. Carla was a volunteer with the organization already, doing English buddy tutoring one-on-one, but she was a retired teacher who had taught and in fact helped start a newcomer program for middle school English language learners in the city public school system here. So she had related skills and was excited to work with adults for the first time. And Joe is a PhD student and my graduate research assistant. He's studying language and literacies education and has a background teaching adults in alternative schools in Myanmar. So also had that cultural knowledge and some linguistic commonalities with those learners. And then Najia, we hired her as a classroom aide. She's from Afghanistan. She also helped some data collection, speaks Pashto and Dari, and so she provided support for our Afghan ladies, who were the majority of the students at the beginning, and then things kind of shifted. So we'll move on here. So like the other presentations, we have very high level findings, a little more information in the blog post about our instructional approach, but I'll focus on the takeaways here. And so what we found, we were able to develop kind of our dream classes for the beginner literacy level and then the intermediate, more conversational level for these learners. And we found that in both cases, a balanced approach to literacy, so focusing on top-down and bottom-up skills, which is structured, so routines in class that learners could get accustomed to, but flexibility, so learners, often have to miss class or start in the middle of the session. So having materials and an approach that incorporates new learners into the learning environment quickly works really well. And we found that supported their literacy development and their confidence. And I should mention that the data collection for this project included, it was all qualitative, but it included the planning documents, curricular materials, field notes. I took field notes of the beginner class, and we had field notes of the intermediate class from the teacher as well. So lots of rich observations and then feedback from the learners as well. And what I noticed, especially in my observations, is that the learners engaged in multiple types of translanguaging to support classmates, especially those newer arrivals, and to enhance their personal learning. So one example, we'll call her Anna. She came from Somalia. She was brand new to the area, to the country, and speaks Somali and a little Arabic, and was really a beginner in English and in literacy as well. But I noticed that she would come to class early every day and use an app on her phone, which gave her phrases in English and Somali. So she was learning the oral language through that tool. And then in the class, her classmates who spoke Arabic would help her with little translations and things as they could. And it was just really beautiful to see how they use their various languages to support each other. and to develop their own strategies to learn outside of class as well. So, as all of you would know, if you've been involved in adult education, adult learners face a variety of challenges, which sometimes force them to miss class or to stop coming to class. And we had all of those different kinds of challenges in this group. We had fluctuation in attendance, incorporated new learners throughout the class. But even with all of those changes, the structure and the environment of the class and the program in general helped to form a tight-knit community in each class. In fact, in our intermediate group, they were doing a unit on friendship. And one of the learners commented that her best friends in this area or in the United States were people from that class that she had met in English class. And so we see through these observations. Oh, and this picture, which makes me salivate, is from our end of session potluck. So learners brought different foods from their cultures, and we just sat around chatting, and it was such a beautiful picture of that community that we had developed in the class. The beginner ladies were sitting together and chatting about their families, showing pictures and making plans to get together during the summer break. So we see that adult ESL classes or ESOL classes not only facilitate increased English proficiency, but also connect learners to others in the community, which has an effect of motivating them or inspiring them to use more English and to increase their English skills. So there's kind of a cycle that happens there, right? So some implications that I see are for more research in this area. There's not a ton of research on that LESLA population. It's growing, but a lot of what we see is not easy to translate into practice. So I'd love to see, and in fact do, more research which really looks at those classroom interactions and how learners are responding to instructional approaches and getting their feedback. It's often difficult to get feedback from learners who are at the beginner level because you don't necessarily have someone who can translate to get their detailed feedback from learners who the teachers don't typically share a language with. So moving on to policy, I see a need for capacity building in adult education programs at the local level and then at the state level. So the whole reason that we started this program was because of a gap in services in the city, the adult education program, which is run by the public school system. Their classes are always full. They have trouble finding qualified teachers. And then the funding is very up and down. They have to apply for grants all the time. They had a gap in leadership. So we created this program to fill a particular need. And since then, the adult education, the public program has stabilized a bit. And so we're working on ways that we can connect with other programs and build pathways and partnerships. So that brings me to the practice aspect. In this nonprofit area, we're focusing now on tailored programs. So the city program can provide those kind of generic English classes, especially for learners at the intermediate or advanced level. They have more hours per week, a little bit more structured, I guess you could say. So we're focusing on family literacy. A lot of the learners that we had are moms with young children. And so they were able to get transportation and childcare to come to our classes, thanks to the generosity of this grant program. And then we're going to be focusing on bringing the moms and the kids together to practice those early literacy skills and to help those preschool kids prepare for school at the same time. So that's our dream at this point. There's some other areas that we're looking to develop programming with the organization, and then strengthening partnerships with the city public program, so that learners can maybe start in this sheltered environment and then transfer into the public classes, and also strengthen or establish pathways for different opportunities into the workforce and high school equivalency programs and post-secondary community college and even university programs. So that's what we're looking for. And the bottom line, I think, is that adult learners can excel with appropriate instruction and resources.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa. I want to draw your attention to the Q&A. There are several questions in there for you to respond to. And everyone on the call, you can please start thinking of other questions that you would like to ask any of the research teams when we reach the bottom of the hour. So now zooming back out to the national level, we have Margaret Patterson and Jungung Lee, who are here to talk about a part of a study that has been conducted by the evidence-based adult ed system, that affectionately known as eBase, part of the Open Door Collective. And so welcome, Margaret and Jungun.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everyone. My name is Jung Lee from Penn State University. First of all, thank Olin, World Ed, and Barbara Bush Foundation for supporting our project. With Margaret, we are very excited to share some of our findings from this project today. So our study, titled the eBase Return on Investment Pilot Study, aims to inform the design of a national return on investment study for adult foundational educations. So instead of focusing on the relationship between investment and measurable outputs, like economic outputs, we wanted to explore whether adult learners achieve their goals through adult education programs, and if investing in their learning is a solid investment. So that's how the intention of our study, and the result will highlight how adult foundational education add value and contribute to building high quality foundational skills that adult learners need. Next slide, please. So as Jen mentioned, researchers in the eBase evidence-based adult education system tried to rethink return on investment in adult education from a learner-centered perspective. So for this study, we engaged adult learners through survey and adult education practitioners through focus group to gather their insights on the findings from the survey. So first, we administered the adult learner survey in November 2022, receiving responses from 739 adult learners about their participation goals and their participation reasons and achieving outcomes in adult educational programs. So additionally, to validate and gain deeper insights into the survey and the ROI study, we conducted 7 focus groups with the 23 adult education practitioners, including instructors, local agency directors, administrators, and state directors of adult education from 4 different states. Next slide, please. So a little bit of a background for survey participants. So majority, the 2/3 were female and about 1/3 were male, and about 40% participated in ESL programs and 22% in GED or HiSET programs. Most learners were in their 20s and 30s with a median age of 32, and notably 60% of learners had children under 18, indicating majority of learners in adult foundational education programs are parents of school-aged children. Learners reported their goals and reasons for participating in AFE across 5 domains with a list of 3-4 different goals. So among the 5 domains, the most prevalent reasons were to strengthen skills, gain confidence, and learn skills to keep their job. And other significant goals include making life satisfying and supporting their child's learning. So these goals indicate that adults have very diverse drivers to participate in AFA programs. The highest achieved outcomes reported were learning English, enhancing life satisfaction, and gaining confidence. And other significant outcomes include earning a high school equivalent certificate and making a positive community impact and pursuing some career goals. Next slide, please. So after reviewing the adult learner survey, we asked how adult education practitioners understood learners' reasons and outcomes from their own professional experiences with learners. Practitioners largely confirmed the findings from the survey and added the following insights. So learners improved their lives through participation in AFE programs by obtaining an HSC certificate or learning English, improving work skills, and widening career opportunities. Learners experience personal transformation in AFA programs and develop a new self-vision, which is a form of empowerment. And learners build connections, developing feeling of belonging and reducing loneliness and isolation. And learners develop a community of learners and personal networks that support them academically and with family matters. Lastly, marginalized learners such as immigrants, rural residents, or adults failed by the traditional education system benefit significantly from other foundational education and fostering a better engaged and empowered citizenry. Next slide, please. The research team also asked adult foundational education practitioners' recommendations for prioritized ROI, return on investment topics and study designs. So practitioners recommended on 3 main topics in a larger adult education return on investment study. So the first one is the full scope of adult foundational education in general and its impacts on adult learners should be explored. And for economic mobility, emphasizing career that support learners over mere employment is important. And also investigating the multi-generational benefits of family literacy needs to be investigated. And for the larger scale return on investment study design, practitioners suggested reconsidering the cost. So beyond the program's cost per adult learner, so intangible cost that adult learners have to pay to be in the program, such as transportation, childcare, and learners lost income or pay for being able to be in the program, those kind of costs should be considered. And additionally, the study should include return on individual gains like confidence and skills, family benefits such as children's educational achievement, and social returns like increased literacy rates, reduced recidivism, and civic involvement. And finally, the study should encompass a variety of other foundational education programs and also take into consideration for specific goals of diverse populations. Next slide, please. So finally, the implications. So our mixed method study suggests that an ROI, return on investment study, should account for the complexity of adult foundational education, necessitating a more granular research approach. Also, since the ROI is not immediately apparent or fully captured, especially for adult education population, a longitudinal and qualitative approach is essential. And additionally, more research on family literacy and multi-generational outcomes of adult foundational education is needed. For the policy implications include recognizing that workforce-focused policies may overlook other critical benefits of adult foundational education. So policies should consider the broader impacts of other foundational educations, such as improve life outcomes and enhance civic and community involvement. For the practice, intentional efforts by adult foundational education practitioners are very important and key for learners to achieve their desired outcomes. And also increased fundings for adult foundational educations is crucial to amplify both individual and societal returns on investment. And finally, we want to highlight one more that many individual and social returns benefits of adult foundational educations still remains unmeasured and unnoticed in researches and policies. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. And I want to acknowledge that Margaret is also here and I think has been responding to some questions in the chat. So I believe we've gotten everything asked and answered that attendees placed in the chat. At this point, if there are additional questions for any of the research teams, we have some more time for those who want to stay for discussion. So at this point, feel free to put any questions in the chat, or if you would like to actually voice your question or contribute an observation, let us know in the chat and we can make sure you get unmuted so you can do that.
Additionally, for anyone who has to leave early, we want to make sure that the blogs most of the teams have mentioned are available to you. If you scan the QR code or access the link in the chat that I believe Jen is going to copy and paste in, you will find a blog on the All In site that links to all 5 blogs from all 5 research teams that have presented today. So thank you to all of the teams.
So I'll ask the first question, and this could be to any of the teams. As you know, we focused on community engaged research for this initiative. How did that methodology or that way of thinking about being intentional and involving community partners throughout the research process impact the way you worked? Was it different? What challenges, what differences, what similarities? We'd just love to get your input on the community engaged research process. Yeah, Margaret, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here at the tail end. But yeah, it was an incredible process for us to engage with our communities. And by that, I mean, not only did we have the opportunity to hear from approximately 800 adult learners from around the country, but we also got to talk with instructors and local program directors and state directors from 4 different states representing each of the regions of the US. And it was just phenomenal information to see how they worked with each other and what they had to share based on what was going on in their programs and in their states. And, you know, honestly, we would not have gotten probably a fraction of the information we wanted to get unless we had taken that approach. So it was a great choice to do that. And I think we learned so much more, so much richer information from all of that than we would have if we had, you know, perhaps followed a more traditional approach. So thanks.
Thanks so much, Margaret, for sharing that. Elisa, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I would. I think, you know, obviously I conducted a national survey, and really any researcher can construct a survey, pilot it, get feedback from doing the pilot. But I think the process of having practitioners actually first inform the design of the survey and then give feedback on it and then help with the analysis just gave me a different perspective than I could possibly have as a researcher. So I think it's just bringing, you know, different perspectives together in a way that's just makes the sum total greater than the parts. And I think it just made it better.
That's great. Thank you. Are there other questions from any of the attendees that are still in the room? Feel free. I want to highlight again that the link to the blogs is in the chat. There is a question from Andrew in the chat asking there's an opportunity for similar research or collaboration to be extended internationally. Well, I can respond that World Education does actually most of its work in Africa. Andrew, I would encourage you to follow the World Ed newsletter. And if any of the other researchers are doing work in other countries, feel free to chime in also. Okay, any other questions from the field? Oh, someone's requesting the information about the amounts of the awards. The amount, we had a set pool of funding. These were considered small awards for very important research. The range of the range of the grants were varied depending on the scope of the study. But what's true is that each of these was very important projects that contributed to our understanding of the innovation required in order to meet the needs of the Barbara Bush National Action Plan for Adult Literacy. So these were very creative researchers who worked well beyond, I'm sure, the funded amount in order to make the studies happen. Federico has something in the chat. Federico wants to say that there's not only a lot of work that we need to do together, but that the research findings are generally applicable to other sites and locations. Yeah, very interesting. So to your knowledge, maybe this will be the last question. Research teams who haven't had a chance to chime in to answer a question. How did your findings resonate with you in terms of other prior research that you have done? Were you surprised by what you saw? To what extent do you imagine these stories unfolding in a similar fashion in other settings? Yeah, Brooke.
I can't compare what we did on this project to previous research because this was the first project at my place of work that I was involved in. But what I would speak to is because of the general high rate of turnover in adult education, it speaks to the point of always wanting to sort of reinforce those connections and those efforts. One of the findings from our project was that partnerships become a problem because one person from one place connects with one person at another place, but if either one of them leave, then the partnership disintegrates. So in that same vein, I just wanted to speak to how this type of research made the problem a collaborative effort. And it built trust, not only among providers, but between them and us, which I think is vital.
That's great. All right, Ashley or Melissa, anything else to add to the discussion? Okay. Well, I think that we will wrap this up here then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting World Education to coordinate this for the All In Initiative. Thanks to the Barbara Bush Foundation for the funding for this. And thanks to Dollar General for funding the Barbara Bush Foundation's All In Initiative. It has been a pleasure working with these researchers in this very unique and highly relevant approach to conducting research. And I just want to congratulate everyone and hope that you will all check out the blogs, and feel free to share the recording of this webinar too. So thanks again, all. Take care.